¿Por qué no quieres mostrar tu rostro en cámara?
Illegal immigration is a threat to the well-being of every American community, threatening innocent families, overwhelming public resources, and draining the federal treasury.
This is not about border security or about illegal immigrants coming into the country. It's about a wall.
The majority of immigrant overstays, the majority of the reason that people are undocumented is visa overstay. It's not because people are crossing a border.
Is it relatively easy for someone to come into the U.S. as a tourist and then simply stay?
If they get the tourist visa, yes, it is.
Tú le dices a alguien, ¿cuánto tiempo tienes aquí? Y la mayoría te va a responder, no, bueno, yo me vine de vacaciones por 2 semanas. ¿Hace cuánto? Hace 3 años.
Juan, as he'd like to be called, is in the US legally as a tourist. For now, because for him, going back home to Venezuela is not an option. If he can't figure out a way to change his status to a more permanent one, he might soon be one of the hundreds of thousands who have overstayed their visas, and then he would be here in the US illegally.
Sin duda mudarse a Miami, yo creo que es una ventaja muy grande para nosotros los venezolanos, porque hay una comunidad muy grande de venezolanos acá y realmente uno a veces siente que ni se fue. Todas las cosas a las que uno está acostumbrado están acá.
Juan never really planned on making a life in Miami, but he says he lived through the worst of the Venezuelan crisis.
Venezuela es un país que está en una crisis política, social y económica muy profunda que impide que los profesionales jóvenes pues surjan. ¿Sabes? En Venezuela ya es normal ver un asalto a mano armada, es normal ver asesinatos, escuchar de que a alguien lo secuestraron. Ya más bien uno reacciona como de forma y que, ay, bueno, menos mal que nada más te robaron todo lo que tenías y no te mataron.
Venezuela has one of the highest inflation rates in the world. It's also ranked as one of the most violent countries, and it's now dealing with an unprecedented political crisis, having technically 2 presidents.
Guaido declared himself the nation's interim president after the National Assembly declared Maduro's re-election last year to be a sham.
And it's a crisis the US government has addressed numerous times in the past few months.
Rising desperation has fueled a mass exodus. More than 3 million Venezuelans have now abandoned their beloved country. And if things don't get better, another 2 million are expected to follow them before the year is out.
So Juan did what many young Venezuelans have done before him. He left his country behind. In the US, immigrants from Venezuela nearly doubled in the past decade to more than 350,000 people, most of them moving to major metro areas. Miami holding the largest concentration of Venezuelan expats. So yes, Juan feels at home here. But before we could talk about his options to actually stay in the US legally, it is moving day.
Bueno, esta ya es la 4ª vez que yo me mudo dentro de los Estados Unidos. Como yo todavía no tengo social o tal vez la capacidad económica de rentar un apartamento, me toca acomodarme en casas donde ya otra persona que sí tiene un estatus distinto al mío alquiló la casa y yo alquilo el cuarto. Yo me vine con $700 encima. Yo pensaba que me iba a quedar 2 meses acá en un sofá y que iba a trabajar por debajo de la mesa, no sé, cortando matas, cualquier cosa, como jardinero, como lo que venga. O sea, pero que se me haya abierto la oportunidad de ejercer lo que yo sé hacer, es algo que no me esperaba.
He used to be a videographer in Venezuela. Now, legally, as a tourist, he can get a driver's license, but he's not allowed to work. Which he does. He makes social media videos for local businesses.
Well, technically, when you're here on a B2 visa, which is a tourist visa, when you work, that's a violation of your visa. When you put your children in schools, that's a violation of your visa. When you go to school, that's a violation of your visa. When they try to come back, if they are taken to what's called deferred secondary screening, and if they discover that they have been working, they can cancel their visa and send them straight back.
At the time of this recording, Juan had been in the US for a little over 9 months, but technically, he hadn't overstayed the 6 months allowed by his tourist visa.
What can happen is he can come here, he can apply for his extension of status to try to get more time on his tourist visa. While that time is pending, he's not accruing what's called unlawful presence as long as the application wasn't frivolously filed. And in the meantime, if he decides to do any kind of change of status, he could change his status.
Applying for an extension on his tourist visa bought him some time, but the clock is ticking. He says his immigration attorney gave him these options. So he could apply for political asylum, like many Venezuelans have in the US, but the process could take years and he wouldn't be able to leave the country. He could marry a US citizen, yes, but he's not dating anyone at the moment, and otherwise he knows that would be fraud. Or he could apply for the O1 visa.
Okay, the O1 visa is used for many. I've had a journalist, I've had a model, I've had a singer. I'm not going to say they're easy, but as long as you fit into the criteria, you'll get the O visa.
So basically, the O1 visa is for artists. That's Juan's best bet. He's been working to build his case, and if approved, he'd be allowed to live and work in the US for 3 years. Now, there could be another option for him, but it's a long shot.
We stand with the Venezuelan people in their noble quest for freedom, and we condemn the brutality of the Maduro regime.
Recently, the US government has been quite fond of Venezuelans.
And the United States of America will stand with them.
So, a bill was proposed. It's called the Venezuelan TPS Act of 2019, and if approved, it would allow Venezuelans without status to live and work in the US temporarily. But that could mean years and potentially good news for Juan. But as conversations on immigration policies seem to be focused elsewhere, there's no way to know when the Venezuelan TPS bill will pass, or if it will. So if it all fails, Juan would consider overstaying his visa. But he wouldn't be alone. In 2017, there were 600,000 people who overstayed their visas here in the US, which is a significant number compared to the 190,000 who entered without inspection. That means those who crossed the border illegally.
I think everybody's just looking for a way, Carlos, to make a living. There are some people that are looking to manipulate the system, but in general, I think they're just looking for a better way of life.
A mí me encantaría no tener que salir de mi país para ser quien yo quiero ser profesionalmente. Para mí esto es un sacrificio desde cualquier punto de vista, pero yo estoy haciendo todo para entrar dentro del carril de la legalidad dentro de los Estados Unidos, poder trabajar, poder pagar taxes y poder tener una vida tranquila acá, que no es posible en mi país en este momento.